Nuh-uh.
The fuck you mean, nah?
Hello, you guys, and welcome back for another round of Sith Happens Star Wars podcast. I am Eric the Dadalorian, and thank you guys for joining us again for a very, very special What If episode of Sith Happens. Now, I'm joined by the scruffiest of the nerf herders and the slimiest of the Minoc. It is my two boys, Matty Ice and otherwise known as I am not a committee, and Black Series Daily Desk on Instagram. How we doing, fellas?
Doing all right. Holy Sith, was that an opening?
that was a mouthful as always. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Trying to stay hyped. These kids had me up all night.
Yeah, whenever you go that fast, I'm like, wait, am I on? Yeah, great to be here. I am Matty Ice, aka Black Series Daily Desk on Instagram, and I am very excited. As frequent listeners know, this specific episode is always my favorite to do.
It's gonna
These
get
are the ones
good.
you go bonkers for, honestly. Like these,
Yep.
this is the one that you really, really love.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I would just do a podcast where I do this, just fire one at me, you know? And of course, for those of you that don't know, it is the What If podcast, where we've asked listeners to comment on our Instagram or any of our handles and let us know a what if story you want us to try to figure out. And we got some really good ones
And boy,
tonight
oh boy.
that I think we're really excited about.
Yeah, we
actually got
a lot of fun ones coming up here that I am interested to see what direction they go in, to say the least. So
Absolutely.
definitely excited about that.
Yeah, we honestly had some really great submissions of some really great what ifs, and honestly, I cannot wait to get into these guys. So I think we should just go ahead and jump right into this, to tell you the truth, because these are going to be we're gonna get these. Let me put the old reading spectacles on. We're gonna go ahead and jump into each of these. I'll read it off. Hey, listen, I'm getting old. We're gonna go into these, read them off, and just kind of give our take and elaborate on where we see the story going from there. So let's do the first one. From our friend on Instagram, Stormy Strawberry, what if it was Obi-Wan who died on Naboo and not Qui-Gon? Sorry, Aunt, no Kenobi hate today, I promise. I sense a story in that, but
yeah. There's a little bit of a backstory there. So the long and short of it is, as I shared here on the podcast some time ago, Obi-Wan is who I claim to be my favorite Star Wars character. Hers not so much. So, anywho, yeah, this one's a little bit of a gut punch to me, but at the same time, something that I can fully get behind.
Well, then, would you like to go first?
No, absolutely not. I don't want to talk about this.
I'll go, because I'll tell you what,
go?
this
You've had a
is
thought?
actually
Give it to me, yeah.
one of my favorites, actually.
I know you're excited, so I didn't want to steal your thunder, but
Oh, that's
do
totally
just
it.
wanna say,
Yeah, you knew. You
I'm
100%.
I'm not going to
This like
we can talk
legitimately,
about
this
it.
is so like
He literally
we've
commented on it, Matt.
Yeah. So, like, this is probably one of the biggest what-ifs that I go bonkers for, because this is the duel of the fates, essentially. Like, this is, how Anakin's going to turn out. And in the end, we know that him going to Obi-Wan was essentially falling into the dark side. Whereas if Obi-Wan fell, Qui-Gon survived, and he trained him, I think the little graphic I used right here of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, Anakin and Qui-Gon, would have been exactly how it would have raised. He would have been raised in a much different type of environment and got the training and, I don't know if maybe like just that tutorage, like that father figure that he really needed. Like, Obi-Wan was that when he was growing up, essentially, but Qui-Gon, I think, had a much more independent view of how the Jedi were supposed to be. And if Anakin were to have took that route, there's no Order 66. The whole scene, there's a lot of things that would change up until the point, but the whole scene with Sidious would go in a completely different direction. I see that scene right there going where, maybe Qui-Gon handles the 2/12 at that point, but Anakin might go back to Mace Windu and then bring him back, and they actually arrest Sidious. And, maybe he reveals, Padme's pregnant and everything. And, okay, yeah, that's cool. You're the chosen one. Happily ever after. So, I don't know. There's really a million ways it can go, but I really do love this because I think this is that story that everybody really wants to see, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So I feel like the easy way to go, or not the easy way, but you always kind of get to this point where you're like, well, Anakin becomes this like honorable man, right? And I think what's interesting is I buy, everything we've all talked about, that with Qui-Gon, it's this father figure, all that kind of coming up into the Jedi. But at the same time, right, he still misses his mother. He's still Anakin, so there's like a guiding hand. With that, like what I also kind of think would happen from there is definitely he would grow into this kind of Jedi. I don't know if he would go back to find his mother. I don't know if that happens because it's a very different history without Obi-Wan. So we'll assume at this point the plan for the Clone Wars is still happening. Just Anakin's not as embroiled in it. So Palpatine may not even have put that much of a hand on him yet to try to get him to turn or be really more of a part of this. So I think there's more of an inciting act than Padme's ship blowing up to like begin the investigation of the Clone Wars. There's less breadcrumbs. I think ultimately the Geonosians do everything they were doing. They continue to build the clones on the Republic side. There's some kind of an inciting terrorist attack that launches into this war. As the war is happening, they're both generals at that point, Anakin and Qui-Gon. Anakin actually might be a Padawan still because he was very young when he became a Jedi Knight, and that's because he defeated Dooku.
I agree with that.
That doesn't happen again. So now he is actually with Qui-Gon during this war, right? I would argue that Qui-Gon would become increasingly disillusioned with what's going on with the war, and maybe they actually leave the Order altogether, and it kind of puts Anakin to a separate side of the galaxy. So this war is going on. Palpatine's got to wrap it up in some way. When he does, there's still going to be Order 66. The clones are made. That was the plan. So ultimately, I think they become like people who are hunted by the Inquisitors. And, as that goes on, that's where Anakin may start feeling a pull to the dark side. Maybe Qui-Gon is killed. But his descent into the dark side takes a lot longer. And by the time it happens, he may be fully gone from Padme, right? So there's no Luke and Leia. And ultimately, you get a full-fledged, unencumbered by injury or suit Darth Vader. And at that point, it's an eternal empire.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's a freaking dope elaboration on it. I really dig that.
I love
actually.
that.
The part about them being hunted by... I was going to say, the part about them being hunted by the Inquisitors, even if they go off and do their own thing, very interesting, and I really like that.
Yeah, I pivoted in the middle there, so I was going to make them like good.
I know.
I was like, but wait, Anakin wouldn't even be a general at that point because he never fought Dooku.
Right.
I think if he wasn't with Obi-Wan, he would
like
definitely...
I like both of your guys' takes. I think the part about yours, Eric, that is problematic to me is we're almost pointing a finger here at Obi-Wan being the reason that Anakin turned to the dark side. You didn't quite say it, but if you read between the lines,
To quote Owen Lars, like you trained his father.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. See, it's not Obi-Wan's fault. It is not at all. I think if anything, it's more the order itself, like the
I agree. I do
what
agree.
it stands for. But that's not what I'm here for. So I enjoyed yours, Eric. It was a happy story. Matt, yours, we got
like
a little
good
dark
ending.
at times. I think where I would. A couple areas I would tweak on yours, Matt, ultimately would be I think Qui-Gon would probably, because he is more of a rebellious Jedi, I think he would probably take Anakin to get his mom. Like,
That's
I think
fair.
he
I agree
wouldn't
with that as
find
well.
issue with that. As like the Order, yes, they find issue with it. Qui-Gon as his master is gonna be like, fuck the Order. We've all seen the meme. Fuck the Order. Let's go get mom. So I think that would probably happen. Ultimately, I don't think it would change much of what you said. But I don't know. There was one other thing, but overall, I really love both of your guys' takes.
Thanks, brother.
Good
So now
stuff.
you can
Well-
participate because Obi-Wan's alive after this. For now.
Okay.
Yes.
For now.
And for everybody who might... was gonna say, for everybody who might be listening or watching right now, by all means, if you have a what if, please drop it in the comment section in YouTube here, and we will be happy to discuss it as well. So we're gonna move into our next one though, another good one. What if Ahsoka did not leave the Order? So now I'm not gonna go for this one. I'll let Ant. You seem excited. Let's
go for it, bud.
Well, actually, I got excited because I did remember my other question about the last one, and it's Stormy Strawberries. So there's
old
hold
news.
on. What about Ahsoka? What about Ahsoka though? What would her role be then in this? Would she be a Padawan next to Anakin?
So I don't think you're assuming their paths still cross, right? They might be friends as Padawans, but there's a mentor student relationship that they have that was built out of that first battle they were on in the Clone Wars movie. So ultimately, she has a totally different Clone War experience and a totally different fighting style. Everything she learned from Anakin is not there, so she might not be the Ahsoka, and she might have just gotten whacked in Order 66, to be honest. That's just my
even have. I don't think she even survives 66 if it happens. If she doesn't have Anakin.
No. That's good. No, I was
Remember,
literally.
he
That's
taught
what I
her to
wanted
fight
ask you
clones.
guys. For sure. Yeah. And all of her instincts and everything. So, anyways, sorry, Stormy Strawberry. I went off on a tangent, but it was your tangent, so hopefully that's okay.
Well, that was this one. We're done. I'm just kidding.
But this is another good one too, because I thought about this one, and I was thinking about all right, so when she leaves the Order, I feel like that's a real turning point for Anakin in Clone Wars. And the next time we see Ahsoka, it's getting closer to the end of the Clone Wars, and she starts going towards the whole Mandalorian storyline and everything like that. I think if she does not leave the Order, I don't think he goes to the dark side. Honestly, I think she is still with him throughout. Going through the Battle of Coruscant, going into all the stuff on Coruscant where he confronts Palpatine, and then I don't think he goes back directly to. Maybe he does go directly back to Mace Windu, but I think Ahsoka intercepts him, and along the way she talks some sense into his ass.
So I don't want to be the naysayer again, but I don't know how much.
Why do you always got to contradict me, Matt?
I'm not trying to contradict you. I'm giving the other point.
Hold
of
on,
view.
before
It's
you
like a political
contradict
show.
him.
From a certain point of view. That's what we should start calling these.
No, before you
that.
contradict him though, to go with what Eric's saying, I think that I would agree to an extent, because I think that a big part of Anakin staying more pure was Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Personally, it's a viewpoint, Matt. So
Yeah.
now you can
I
rain
think
on
he,
both
I
of
think
our
he saw her
parades,
like
'cause we're in
almost as like a.
agreement.
I think he
A
saw her
reason to
almost
be
as
good.
like a sibling type of thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I see it as like a reason to be the Jedi that she wants him to be, type thing.
Yeah, no, and I think that's true to an extent. And it, you have to remember, when she's promoted, she's no longer his Padawan. She's not with him anymore. They invited her back in the Order to be a knight. So we're writing this narrative, right? We're writing this story. So if in like your version of it, right, it is that she keeps him on the path. To me, she might. You don't know if she's next to him when they call them back to Coruscant. You know that that's something Palpatine would have wanted him to be near her when he fell. Padme still is going to get sick. She's on more adventures with him. There are more battles. It might expedite that part of the plan so that Coruscant happens sooner. But ultimately, his draw is still going to be to Padme. So I would say, for me, it would be interesting if ultimately, like, it makes it a lot harder for him to do, and maybe there's more conflict. I think if she's not even with him when it happens, and then she survives Order 66, what kind of Jedi is Ahsoka then, right? Because we got the broken hiding Ahsoka. I've got to come back into this. I've gotten rid of my lightsabers. However long a period of that time was, like 2 years before even getting back into a battle, like on Mandalore. I know there's like smaller stuff with Inquisitors, but now she knows how to kill Inquisitors. She has the full might of a Jedi, right, that she always had. She's younger when she starts, and she's more determined. What does that do to the rebellion if she's joining that? And I think that that's a really interesting way to take her life, that it becomes less about atoning for what happened to Anakin because she abandoned him, and more feeling that pain, maybe confusing it for him dying or something like that.
Sure.
And now she's around in the galaxy, kind of part of the rebellion, and beyond being fulcrum, does she become more like a mother of the rebellion, or figurehead, right?
More of a
So the one thing I have with that is I do think she still stays as a Padawan, because if you remember in the Clone Wars, at that scene where they're like, oh yeah, you can go back, Anakin's actually holding her little braid that she has, because she doesn't have the hair like a Togruta, as a Togruta. So I think she does go back as a
Yoda
Padawan.
told her that she passed the trials when they welcomed her back. I'm like almost 100% sure. We can debunk it if I'm wrong. But
okay, yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember that, but I do remember Anakin holding her little braid thing, so that's why I brought that part up.
yeah, no, I think you're right. I think
Hal Runner?
Yeah.
Hal Runner, are you out there?
Yeah. Hal Runner, you here to help us?
I don't think it's online today.
I think for me it's more, I think that was more symbolic because she didn't accept the Jedi braid. She rejected everything. But we'll debunk that next week. We can go back and watch that episode. That'll be a good debunk. Our next episode will debunk.
Fair enough, but good what if. I like this
Great
one.
Matt, you are really good at going into good depth with these. Very good. I love it. You should write movies.
Every time we do
Disney. I
this,
hope
we
you're
want
listening.
Lucasfilm to
Hello,
find us.
Disney. Are you here?
Yeah.
Yes. Please don't sue me. All right, so we got this next one that came from OK Figures on Instagram. It says, what if Obi-Wan left the Jedi Order to be with Satine and became a Mandalorian general? They held off Darth Maul and ruled Mandalore until Anakin, corrupted by the dark side, killed him, and he died in her arms. So talk about a swap there, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you guys think?
So,
I feel like I've been doing a lot of the talking. You guys do some.
yeah, and you can go. I've been also.
Yeah, I think that this one would be, for me, like I imagine it as, he's not doing this as if he's forsaking the Jedi. He's doing this because he is such an admirable Jedi that he knows he has to choose between love and the Jedi code. So he's going to choose love, and ultimately he's going to leave the code behind. So we're going to see an Obi-Wan that's kind of, and it's going to be like a version of the one that we saw in Kenobi, but hyped up, rather than being this hermit. He's still probably not going to be using the Force, and that's again out of respect for the Force, and who knows what will happen down the road, but. So he's still going to be a badass, general. I think a similar type of general to what we would see. But I think that it's going to be, the I don't know. The second part where he throws it just turns so dark. Anakin corrupted by the dark side. This is OK Figures, my man.
How badass would it be if he
killed
managed
him
to take the dark saber from Maul?
Like,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a cool point if he takes the dark saber from Maul, though, right? Like, we're getting the story to here,
True.
an angle would be how Satine take it. Not well, but if he actually, that's a great point. If he gets the dark saber from Maul and Anakin kills him, now Darth Vader is the ruler of Mandalore. So he has
hold that. That
Plot
would be a
twist.
caveat. That would be the caveat to allowing him to wield a saber again, though, because
It
he
would
could
technically,
wield
yeah.
it as a Mandalorian.
And we've
wielding
seen
the dark
him do
saber.
jetpack and lightsaber combo, and he was
So
hardcore
let's
as hell.
So
not
let's
just
see- that changes
assume
that
that
fight.
Anakin's gonna beat his ass. Okay.
I mean, for the purpose of the what if, yes, but I would agree. I also think it'd be interesting to see if Satine doesn't die. They spend most of the Clone Wars fighting off Maul, right? Then once they win that and you get into this galactic empire, how is Mandalore involved? Because she's a pacifist. Obi-Wan, you don't know what he's like after that whole war, right? Ultimately, if we assume maybe Obi-Wan's fighting Maul and actually ends up getting killed, and she ends up killing Maul, and she gets the Darksaber, and that's how she becomes the true ruler of Mandalore. What kind of a queen is she? She's a pacifist. You know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
becomes its whole own other thing. We're branching off here, but that's its own other thing. And it's like, as a pacifist, do they try to shut off from the Empire, and the Empire has to push harder and harder, and it's like a complete genocide with no survivors?
Yeah.
Like, is there, like, or does it become a thing where she really, like, becomes a warrior queen, right? And, like, Bo-Katan is, somehow back on their side. I'd assume there'd be, like, that turn in some way, shape, or form. Bo-Katan's back on her side as, like, her general. That could create a whole Shakespearean thing. There's a lot of directions this goes once you decide somebody ends up with the Darksaber at some point in the story. None good, by the way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Except for the one where Obi-Wan gets a Darksaber, and
yeah, that's true. If you want Obi-Wan to kill Darth Vader,
he remains a badass.
if you want Obi-Wan to kill Darth Vader with the Darksaber, I will watch that 100%. I'll take yours over mine.
Obi-Wan could have easily killed Darth Vader before he ever became Darth Vader, but he just chose not to because he's Obi-Wan.
He's a good dude.
But what
he
if
left
this,
him, he left him to die.
Potentially,
Yeah,
potentially becoming.
it's like, actually, let me retract that. He is he's twisted. He's a twisted fuck.
Yeah.
What if becoming
Son of a
essentially
Sith.
becoming a Mandalorian changes that in him, and now he has that more war culture type of thing, and he does take him out.
That'd be,
shit.
but then like, what happens? Does he raise an army of Mandalore to fight the Empire? And they become sort of the rebellion, but it's like a lot more stoic and less raggedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, honestly,
A lot of
good.
different
What if
directions we
this?
could go with
Do you
that,
guys
yeah.
want to just jettison this like 40 years? We'll go through how that changes Mando. Like, well, that show never happens. Yeah.
Yeah, things are a little different now. Great what if
What
though,
would
and thank
Din
you,
be
OK
like?
Figures, for the submission. What's that?
What would Din be like?
He'd be a farmer.
I mean,
He'd
was
probably
found-
not be a
he was found during the
Mandalorian,
Clone
period.
Wars.
Yeah, he'd be a straight
Exactly.
up farmer.
Well, he would. He was found by Death Watch during the Clone Wars, but I think it would just be a much different story.
he might be like a rank and file Mandalorian soldier, and that's his story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically so. All right, moving on to the
But
next
what
one,
if
and I
it was always his? No, I'm just kidding. I'm gone.
So, we had this submission come in from Bonadai Castfigs. What if, after Alderaan destruction, Leia, in pure anger, releases her dark side force powers and kills Vader? So, I don't see this one particularly becoming a thing, just because like she has no inclination of any type of force powers at this point. But if she did up until this point, and she just has that flip, I think at that point she just becomes the new two, essentially, rule two.
Yeah, I would
she
agree.
becomes the new apprentice, and at the end of it, it becomes a Leia v Luke combat at the end, which would be absolutely nuts, especially with the reveal of the siblings getting revealed at some point down the line. Honestly,
Well,
Because here's the thing with that: if Leia kills Vader after the destruction of Alderaan, then Obi-Wan might not die, and Luke might have a very, very different direction with his teaching, as he might actually get some teaching, and be able to have some instruction there. So Luke might become a whole hell of a lot more powerful.
and you have
Jedi
one
in the
sibling
process as
trained.
well.
One sibling trained by the Emperor, one sibling trained by Obi-Wan in this like final duel. But then where does that put Obi-Wan and the Emperor in that battle? And also, Obi-Wan at some point has to tell Luke Leia is his sister. At which point, and there's a lot that can go here, because there's the connection with Obi-Wan from his show and seeing her turn to the dark side. Like, this is a what if that could be like a 3-season TV show with all the different ways it
really
changes.
could.
What happens when they get to the Death Star and everybody's in total array because Vader's dead and the control room's destroyed? Can they control the Death Star now? Like, there's so much more that goes into it. Like, I'm sure there's some kind of redundancy on that, but you get what I'm saying. Like, in that moment, the tractor beam, is it working? Like, I know they're all over the ship. Who's commanding things, right? Because if she kills Vader in that anger, Tarkin's somewhere
Tarkin's
in that
right
wake.
there.
Yeah, in that wake.
You know.
That's its own thing. So there's a lot of differences there. When Obi-Wan, Luke, and them get to the Death Star, their Imperials evacuating. Is it, totally dead? They can just fly around it. You know what I mean? And realize it's Alderaan. And then at that point, there's a whole other way they have to get into the rebellion. Maybe Han Solo is not around anymore, because he just kind of was like, all right, guys show where I'm
Peace.
going. Where should I drop you off? They owe him money. Is he a bad guy now? There's a lot that's going to go into that.
yeah, no, there's
But,
a lot. There's
you
a
know,
lot that changes with this. That's for sure.
I definitely think within the realm of possibilities, it's certainly possible. You know, we watched it in your not so fan favorite, but the Acolyte. You know, at the end there, where she basically flipped her switch and went dark. Like that's just an example of what in my opinion, how powerful the Force is. Like it can be, you know, it can be light, it can be dark, it can be a little in between.
Maybe in the scuffle, Obi-Wan finds both of them and explains to her what happened, introduces them, and then trains them both as part of the rebellion.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? That was really bad. You did, your eyes turned red, you know, but you did kill Vader, and that's actually a good thing. So let's turn that red off and scoot on over.
She wasn't holding a lightsaber, nobody will know. But then at the same
Here's
time,
a Xanax. I'll talk to you in the morning.
yeah, that could make the finale of all of this Luke, Leia, and Obi-Wan versus the Emperor.
Oh, dude.
The Emperor would definitely find somebody else to apprentice, though. I mean,
yeah, he tried for a long time during the Darth Vader
Starkiller
comics. So yeah, he brings Starkiller in and everybody dies.
Yes, literally. If you played that game, you know everybody actually dies.
Yep.
But great what if though. So Bunadai Castfigs, thank you for the submission, and I think we're moving on to our last one that I have from Instagram. So if anybody has any that they want to drop in the comments on our YouTube, by all means, please drop it in. We're going to be happy to discuss it at the end of these here. And this is our last one, and it's what if Kanan Jarrus did survive? And
all right, Eric, I think you and I are going to have to cover this. I don't think Matt will have much to say. He doesn't like Rebels.
Yeah.
This one was tough for me, even though it's my favorite Star Wars show, because I think Rebels is perfect. I mean, I think if Kanan doesn't die, you end up with roughly the same showdown you got, you know, at the end. I think he gets really screwed up, though, in this fight. So he's still sort of out of the fight, right? Like, ultimately, like, he's not, you know, walking around. Like, he's very badly burned or something, and it changes kind of the trajectory of where they go. Like, when they're at, maybe he's really messed up. They make you wait. You wait a little bit longer till they get to that Imperial architectural site or whatever that was, right? And that site kind of heals him, right? Mm-hmm. Or he has to take places with Ahsoka in order for her to jump out and get out of the world between worlds, and he knows that he's really messed up and he's not going to make it. And then that changes the whole thing, because like Kanan, not only like, so he sacrifices himself kind of twice, and Hera doesn't get to say goodbye, right? Yeah. So that becomes a whole other thing. And I think that in the end, the result is roughly the same, but there's a lot of different things about the characters. Like Ezra feels a duty to Kanan because he saved them, but there's with this maybe a little anger towards Kanan because Kanan then swapped himself out for Ahsoka. But, you know, Ezra, being frustrated, having had those dark side inklings, is kind of angry with Ahsoka. And that becomes like its own sort of little, you know, fight there. And a lot of what happens after that when when Ezra does what he ends up doing in the end, it changes Ahsoka's motivation to being more intent on finding him and like in the camp of like a Sabine, because she feels a little like there's unresolved, you know, there's an unresolved apology, or like, well, it has to really mean I had to be with him if, you know, they swapped for me and I came back, you know, that type of thing like that. So it changes kind of, maybe she's more of a zealot than she's a wanderer, you know, after, because of what Kanan did.
I'll say this much for this one, that like, I wasn't like huge on Rebels, especially the first few seasons, but the last 2 seasons absolutely hooked me. And this scene right here, you know, the scene where Kanan makes that sacrifice, that is like the pinnacle of Rebels in my opinion. And like, as sad as it is to lose him, I feel like it is the most pivotal moment in that entire show, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that's his character. Right? Like, that's a character who was destined to sacrifice themselves, becoming a true Jedi again and accepting it. His arc's kind of complete, so it's hard for me to make a new arc for him. So in the end, in mine, he just dies a little later, you know, in a way that's, you know, maybe less of a gut punch in this way, but more of like,
and in your version, he could still kind of, you know, be a guidance in the sense of a master to Ezra, but like he's not really going to be, you know, able to show him everything that he would. I don't know. I think Ezra does have that little. this is skipping ahead to Ahsoka, but what if it made it so that he was a little bit more somehow ended up with Thrawn?
Like Kanan ended up with Thrawn?
No, Ezra, as a result of the direction
Oh.
of the different training that he, kind of lost because the hands-on aspect is now gone. So,
Interesting.
He going into the situation with Thrawn, like obviously he has all his positive intent, but then when you're stuck with someone for all that time, and all of a sudden it might not look so bad.
Yeah.
And those tendencies kind of feed on his emotions, and then all of a sudden Thrawn and him are on the same side.
I think potentially
After all, his friends never came looking for him. I can hear it now from
Yeah. And what's on that planet too, right? Because like there's something there that like if you're getting angrier and angrier and it's echoing in your head, that could awaken something in that mountain.
Honestly, with what's going on in Ahsoka currently, I'm not entirely convinced that the Ezra that we're seeing isn't. There's something maybe going on. I don't know.
I don't
something
think so.
aloof.
I feel like that'd be a cool plot point, but they'd have to execute it really well for me not to be sad.
It just, or I guess maybe I'm just a little.
No, I'm with you. The thought crossed my mind
like when he walked
too.
off the ship, like it all just seemed so easy. I don't know.
Yeah. The thought crossed my mind
I
too.
don't know.
And
I'll say this
Ahsoka
much for this right here.
Like, this was like, I'll leave him, whatever.
Yeah. My view on this is if he does survive the fuel blast, I think potentially he's the one who summons the Purgles and brings everything to Peridia.
Oh, and that changes the rebellion with Ezra because now there's another Jedi around when Luke, and it's kind of known that's that myth going around. I mean, that's its own thing, right? Like, what does that do to the rebellion?
Honestly, as the further we go into the lore that comes out, more and more Jedi start popping up. You got Luke, you got
I was gonna say we're all. Sometimes we got to remember Obi-Wan and Anakin aren't the only Jedi hanging around.
So that's how they made it. That's how they made it. So, and our great friend Hal Runner Base says, "What is up, everyone?"
Up?
So
hello.
Good to hear from you, brother. And then so that great what if, and thank you to outer_multiverse on Instagram for sharing that with us. And we did get one in the comments actually, which I'm going to share right now. And that is, what if Leia was sent home and died when the Death Star destroyed Alderaan? And I think that's, so I mean, this is one of those things that you talk about, like, just changes a lot of things at that point. Like, what are you guys' views on that?
So this one I knew was coming in, so I had a lot of time to think about it, and I actually concocted some thoughts with my wife, who is the one who commented, but I thought this was a really cool one. So what we talked about was, well, first of all, how does it go down, right? Like, ultimately, Tarkin basically says, if that's not the rebel base, then we need to test the station. You can die with your people, and they put her on an unmanned shuttle. So, like we were saying, a really cool thing would be if she, through the window, if it was like a movie, the reflection of the flames from the planet exploding. First, she sees the reflection of the beam. You see the green going across her face. Then the planet explodes, and now the fireball is coming at her. And the last thing she says is, "Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope." And that's the last thing she says. Ooh. So from there, in the Falcon, Obi-Wan, who just felt a billion beings crying out in pain, he is hit. Luke doesn't feel it. But then all of a sudden, Luke and Obi-Wan feel something else. Luke feels it because his sister has died. And it's really like his first truly Force inkling. And Obi-Wan feels it because of the love that he had for her when she was a child. So now they arrive, and it's the Death Star, and Obi-Wan and Luke and Han, and there's no Leia. So the plan goes according to plan. They get out of there with the tractor beam because there's not even Obi-Wan and Vader never need to fight each other, right? So ultimately, they get out of there. With the plan, right? And R2 has it. R2 tells them how to get to the rebellion. Han, I would say, he's my favorite, but I feel like I don't know what he's doing at this point. Like, he basically gets paid. Gets paid. So now Obi-Wan is there to kind of guide the rebellion and use all the tactics of the Clone Wars. while
Yeah.
Luke is training with Obi-Wan, right? It changes the whole trajectory of the war because now you've got this famous mythic Jedi general in rumors, but they're constantly having to move him because like Vader's on his tail. I think
Yeah.
it still ends with Vader killing Obi-Wan, but Luke is now really like he's been getting trained for like 3 or 4 years. So he's still got a lot to learn, but he's not going around the galaxy trying to find, heard this guy knows how to use a lightsaber, whether he's a Jedi or not, where you meet our boy Creel in the comic books, who's actually a stormtrooper who teaches him, and all those different things. So that final battle with Vader that Luke's really like prepped for, he'll learn Vader is his father, you know, maybe before he kills Obi-Wan. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now there's a lot more of Luke going back and forth. The Jabba and the Han Solo thing's not really important. So there's no Lando. The question becomes, is there a second Death Star? And how does the second Death Star get destroyed? Because it was critical to have the Millennium Falcon present at that destruction. So they've either got to figure out a way, maybe through subterfuge or Luke being a lot better, getting a crack team of commandos, looking at you, Poe Dameron's dad, Kess Dameron, and Shara Bay. Those become like much more prominent characters, in the rebellion and the zeitgeist for us.
That's
and
cool.
maybe there's just a different crack group of commandos. But how does the Falcon come into play? And I don't know if it ever does. So maybe they figure it out before it long enough before it happens, so they can stop it, or maybe they don't, and the battle rages on for a very long time.
Han loses it prior to Force Awakens.
Yeah, but they had it for the second Death Star.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. If Han pieces out and he's just gone, you don't think Han's going to lose the Falcon?
That's fair. He kept it only for
So
like 10,
it could
10 years.
end up
at that point.
on some random junkyard. Anyways, some
Yep.
other rebel finds it, Hey,
And they got the gift. Yeah, that could be true.
Could-
Or
could
Luke,
find
it ends up
it
being
could
Luke
still find its way
Skywalker's
home.
ship.
Oh, God, that'd be awesome.
Or Luke finds it, returns it to Han, and then Han joins
Yeah.
the rebellion. Something like that.
Yeah,
He asks him to run a mission for him, and he joins the rebellion. I kind of like the idea. This is Ant. You had to hear about Obi-Wan dying. If at some point Han died, and the Millennium Falcon is Luke's, because Luke's skills in a fighter, but flying the Millennium Falcon, it would be the most badass combo in the history of Star Wars.
It's true. It's true. I could see it on
That
the
would be
screen
something
right
else,
now.
honestly. But all right, so that wraps up our what ifs for this episode, and honestly, all extremely impressive. I loved
those are
everything
good.
that we just talked about. These were some really great ones. So thanks to everyone who did their submissions. And we're going to get into Collector's Corner here in just a minute. But first, and Ant, I know you're going to love this, especially showing off your lightsabers last week. We are going to show off something brand new from SaberMax. New saber.
right.
It has not even released yet. It's actually on pre-order right now. And this one has actually just, to be completely honest with you, just blown me the hell away. So I'm going to pull this thing up now. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Once it gets up, it is the Arbiter. So this is a brand new saber from SaberMax. Like I said, it is on pre-order, expected end of April of 2025 this year. Now, this thing has some features on it that have never been on another saber before that I've never seen this. So firstly, just a sleek, extremely great looking saber. And if you look right there at the center of it, that is the Kyber core. So it's got that rotating Kyber crystal right there that you can see in it. But something that I really love about this, and this is what makes this an extremely unique saber for collectors, scrolling down, great pictures obviously, is this right here. It has an OLED screen on it that you can use to display like characters and stuff like that if you want to put those on.
Oh, that's really cool.
I've never seen a saber with an OLED screen on it, so I'm actually extremely impressed with that.
That's going to be exciting.
Especially if you're using this to like kind of create your own cosplay and stuff like that. This is going to be like a really, really sick one to do something like that. So, but like I said, it's coming out end of April. Yeah, end of April. And if you use the code the Dadalorian, you will get 10% off of your order. And this one's pretty cheap as it is, $228 for a Xenopixel 3, which is actually an extremely great price. And yeah, thank you SaberMax for letting me share this one this week. And
That's awesome.
speaking of collectibles,
It is a really cool saber.
dude, it's so sick. Like that, I really, really want that one. It looks sick.
Well, I don't see any two ways around it.
No. But speaking of collectibles, it gets to our favorite part of the show, and that is our collector's corner. Now, yep, and now I know Matt's. We're gonna save Matt for last because I know he had something he really wanted to share because he was going nuts about it. So, Ant, what do you got to share today?
Yeah, so I think it's similar to you. For me, it's an older item. It's an older figure, and one I had no intention of sharing. So yesterday I was playing with a scene, and I'm like, who do I use? You know, I like to start with someone who I don't use very often, and that led me to this scene back here.
Oh, cool! Oh, I saw the scene already. Very cool.
This is a what if in itself. You know, what if Snoke caught on to Finn having a little force sensitivity, and he said, let's do a little something behind the scenes. But so I think, you know, this figure has arguably one of the best
ugliest
sculpts.
face.
I know, it's so cool. I love that figure. And it's so tall.
Yeah. Of any Black Series figure. Like, the detail in this face, the screens never do it justice, but it's incredible. And I know, you know, these figures don't get a lot of love because they're sequel figures, but I think this figure has a ton of awesome detail in the simplicity that it is.
Yeah, and the soft goods on it, on that figure are amazing. Like, they really got them right. They don't look silly. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, they did it right. I mean, that's one of those figures that whenever I look at it on my
this
shelf,
fabric is that
I'm like,
like
the
see-through
gold,
almost.
but it also it
So I'm not
hangs in a
trying
way that it looks natural, which a lot of the soft goods on figures don't, and you can really pose them in it. Like, and the throne that figure comes with is just awesome for photos with any figure.
So, fun fact about that, I got the figure loose back when I lived in North Carolina at the comic shop I was by, and I was really excited. And then when I moved up here, the new comic shop I found, they had him with the throne for, I think it was $20 in box. And I was like, all right. So I bought that, and I gave the one that I had previously to my brother's son.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
I got that throne from a friend of mine, and he lost the base plate, you know, that makes you be able to step on the throne. And I had it, and I lost it again. So the last time I took a picture of that throne, it looked like Admiral Thrawn. Like, his legs were just, like, dangling off his throne, if you look close to the picture.
Shouty. No, that base plate, actually, for that throne is really... You could, I like stick it in front of like entryways sometime in dioramas, and if you angle it right, it looks like it's like an extension of it. So that's another fun little thing for photographers. If you ever take your accessories apart, you can use them for a lot of different things.
Yeah, you can really play around with them.
Very
The atmosphere
nice.
Stuff's really cool.
So yes, to reinforce what Eric said, he is one ugly mofo,
But in the best way possible.
it is a good sculpt. It was a great sculpt.
Hell yeah. Well, good
all I
one
got.
for you, man. And Matt, I know you're going to go last. So now I have to prepare mine. So you two just enjoy yourself for a second, and I'll be right back.
Oh, God.
I'm
Have we talked lately about anything? Yeah, no. What is prepare himself? Is he doing cosplay?
I don't know.
Do you think he's got a song and dance? Like, it's Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Like, he's going to come out. There's going to be like a band behind him, like 3 droids spinning around, a gold jacket. The whole behind that tarp was his wife.
Or he's dressed like a Biff.
Yeah, exactly. With the red lightsaber. The whole tarp. Yeah. The whole tarp behind him when they pull it down. Oh, that wasn't as fun as what we thought it was going to be.
Shut up. That's amazing.
That's really cool. No, I love that. That helmet looks great with the Darksaber.
I can't hear you because I don't have my headphones on. So one second.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, I was going to say, what everybody else got isn't something I guess I am sharing it publicly.
I didn't mean it like that.
All right, sick opening, but I couldn't hear a damn thing.
No, that was awesome.
That was really cool. I mean, it looks so good on that helmet. I didn't know which one you were showing off, to be honest.
A little bit of both. So that was the Black Series Mandalorian helmet that I've had for a while, one of my favorite collectibles. And this, which I'll turn off just to take the noise down a little bit.
That inverse
And
lightsaber
that's
sound.
on low. And that's on low, mind you. So now I've shown this off before. This is my SaberMax Darksaber. I had to kind of step up to the plate with this a little bit because Ant just be showing off lightsabers like crazy, kind of acting like I'm not the lightsaber guy here.
Hey, well, here's the thing, though. I don't have any more.
You better watch out, bro. He's been talking to SaberMax on the side. I'm just kidding. So you're doing the heavy lean in.
SaberMax.
You aren't ready. But yeah, so this is my dark saber that I got from SaberMax. Once again, I've showed it before, but it's just an amazing detail on this thing. Really, really great. I'm gonna try to turn the volume down real quick. There we go. It's on mute now. So
it told us.
Bright, yes. So bright as all hell. It's probably a little bit hard to make out on the camera, and it's sturdy. Like
no,
and
it's really
got
good.
the great effects.
Does that have one of the
and
ones you
everything.
can duel with or no?
So this is a Xenopixel 3. So you can duel with these. I would not recommend it. So for those of you out there who might be a little bit less familiar with the Saber game, the ones that are like the really good ones to duel with are more the RGBs, or otherwise known as the baselit sabers. So these are ones where the light, so this has like lights that go up through the entire saber and everything like that. So they're a little bit more delicate. RGBs are just like the old school ones where it's just like a plastic saber and the light shoots up from the bottom. Now they can do a lot more than they used to back in the day and everything. Great effects, great motion sensors and everything like that. But those are going to be the ones you want to, those are a little bit more sturdy and you whack them around with, honestly. So, and this one does not come in the baselit just because of the dark saber. It's a little bit different. Obviously it's extremely thin compared to a regular lightsaber that you would get, so I should have grabbed one for reference. But and yeah, that is my
Nice.
one for the week. So thank you Hal Runner for the great comment.
Yeah, that is sick. That
was a good opening that was one of my better openings, I think.
Yeah. Now we're going
was
to
the
have to
best.
find an opening move for the beginning of the next podcast, so we can just for our next collector.
We're gonna be like wrestlers and have our own intro music.
Yeah,
now.
he's in the building. But yeah, oh man, back in those days, I was never a wrestler watching wrestling. But yeah, I
The
guess
only
it's-
wrestling. Oh, I was gonna say I don't know how far you could see. I was gonna try to roll off screen and say that I was John Cena because that's the only wrestling joke that I know.
And his name is John Cena.
I can't see you. What did you say? I guess my turn. I'm really bummed my ring light went out right when we started.
I
this
thought
segment.
you got dark
Yeah,
over there.
Yeah, and I don't have. But anyway, so it said at 38% battery when we started. It was working hard to light this big body. But anyway, speaking of big bodies, I got a box this weekend, and I didn't know. I thought it was something I didn't need to open because I didn't check my notifications from Hasbro.
You and your
and
mail.
Savage Opress
Bro.
arrived,
the
and this
dude is a
figure is
beast.
fantastic. So the first thing I want to talk about is people complain about deluxe figures a lot. I have another Black Series figure, Cassian Andor one, which is about the 6-inch height. This is the height difference. So this figure is about 6.5 to 7 inches. This I actually
is
wanted.
a
I wanted to
beast.
grab my only McFarlane toy, but I don't have it.
So that's
but it's
like
huge.
kind of Malgus size.
Yeah, I think so. I got to get Malgus out, but up there, it's close to Wookiee size too. I forgot to grab Chewie over there,
Man.
but they're like close when you look at the horns. But it is just such a cool figure.
Snoke?
The detailing. First of all, I always complain about butterfly joints. These can be very used. The way the shoulder pads are positioned, it's sturdy plastic with enough separation, so you don't feel like it's going to snap off when you move the shoulder pad. The portrait is just like the perfect mix of the cartoon and live action, which I complain about. And I mean, his saber is just badass. But the cool thing that he comes with, also the soft goods here before I put the figure down. The soft
nice. I
goods
thought
he
that
has
was
there.
really cool. I didn't
and his
realize
legs
that.
can
So much
fully
better with
extend
that.
in them. It doesn't hinder him, which I've never seen them really able to pull off. And I was actually kind of worried about. Great posability, great the articulation.
How is it with
fantastic.
that shoulder armor is my question.
Well, that's what I was just saying. If you look, it so easily moves with the arms, even though it's connected. And literally, like,
Okay.
I can butterfly joint his elbows pretty close compared to like another figure. And it's like full range of motion as far as like this arm going back like this, can move it up in any direction. Like, it is a great figure,
I
but
feel like they have gone amazing strides with. I guess we'll just call them pauldrons. pauldrons?
Yeah, pauldrons. Yeah, it's taken.
Yeah.
They're still not
with,
perfect.
with the figures, because one of my oldest figures, Han Solo in Stormtrooper armor, I was posing him the other day and it popped right off.
Oh yeah, they were. I mean, the older designs for clones and Stormtrooper figures were heinous. But the other thing I wanted to show that I thought was cool is when you say deluxe figure, he's huge. That makes sense to me. The lightsaber's cool. There's a lot of posability on him. But he also comes with his axe spear thing from the show, which is
really?
beautifully. Where's the camera? It's beautifully detailed. When you look at it, I mean, it's got the point up here. It's not like a solid piece of plastic. Two different types of paint on it. And when you look at this next to a Black Series figure, it is
Matt, you're getting
also.
some love.
Oh, am I? You get it? BB.
That's right, he is.
Yeah. But so I thank you. That's my wife. Thank you. I'm a lucky man. But so this is huge.
That's massive.
Yeah, and it's just such a cool figure, and like it's funny. I bought some of the plastic ring stands where you can like make a figure up in the sky with the bendable arms, and they came today. And I don't have the screwdriver to put them together, but it's like 2 or 3 cool photos I want to take with this figure. But I want to wait till I get those to take the photos I envision. So also
I've been
plug for
using-
myself, Black Series Daily Desk. Action figure photos on
I
Instagram.
can't wait to see what you do with that one, honestly.
Yeah, I got some cool ideas.
I'm really excited. I've been doing a lot of using those types of stands lately, and it's just something that I never really thought about to do. Like I'm out in the woods using sticks and stuff, and I'm like, I can take care of this in editing. Like,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun when you start using those.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for me, learning how to edit out the plastic ring stands and the plastic stands changed the game for me. Because I was doing stuff
and
like
it's-
trying to hold a figure at a weird angle and take a picture of it with the same light and then comp it in after. And like that works for a lot of photos, but it's kind of brutal, So it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And
Well,
it's
good.
really
collectors.
hard to get it right when you're doing
Yeah.
it that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good collector's corner, man, and I am so stoked to see what we get for photos coming out of your page here soon. So.
I am so stoked.
Oh, calling it back. Calling it back. And we'll end on that joke. Have a good night, everybody.
John Cena.
Wait, wrong one.
I like watching you squint to find the soundboard that we never really use.
I don't have my glasses on. But all right, anyways, guys. So for everybody listening and watching right now, that does conclude this week's show. We want to just take a quick moment and say thank you guys for joining us, whether you're watching us live or as we upload it to our YouTube. It means the world to us, and we really do appreciate it. It would also mean the world to us if you go check out our Instagram at Sith Happens _Star Wars podcast and give us a follow, and then like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can find in our link tree on our Instagram. You'll also find in there our Spotify and our Amazon Music. So please go follow, like, and subscribe. Now, we are going to say goodbye here. So, Ant, why don't you go ahead and just kick us off, brother?
Hey, thank you, my man. And also just shout out to you for making all that happen on the old Sith Happens website. It is awesome to have all that information just chilling right there, ready to be loved. So another great cast, guys. Thank you to our hundreds of thousands of viewers out there for submitting. We had to pick through. It took us all week. We had to sort through and find 5 out of the millions of submissions.
Yeah, it was
But
crazy.
It's another.
We
fun
hired
one,
an
as
intern. It was
always.
my dog.
I
So
know.
this is just what he stepped on.
You tell him that the pay stops. It's done
Yeah.
now.
He gets paid in treats.
He said we have to do it again. We have to do it again next month or 2 months from now.
He said
I think,
we should
according
do
to
a
the notes.
weekly one at least for him to pick from. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So keep an eye
The
out.
exact
we'll do this
words were
again,
bork,
but-
bork.
Bork.
I know what he
Anyway,
was saying.
We'll do this again. Good night.
And I am,
forced you to do it.
I am Black Series Daily Desk on Instagram. Go check out my figure page, otherwise known on this cast, to my dear friends as Matty Ice. Thank you all for joining us. This is always my favorite episode to do, so I appreciate everybody that participated, and may the Force be with you always.
And I am Eric the Dadalorian. You guys can find me on Instagram at _Dadalorian_. This is the way.